Endless Hustle presented by Four Laps. If you're looking for workout gear that lets you train anywhere, no matter the season, no matter the setting, Four Laps has your back. This brand is always innovating with styles that keep you cool, let you breathe, and stretch so you can really move. The latest collection features some pretty sharp styles that blend recyclable materials with technology that moves with you. Plus, you can get 20% off your first purchase with code BroBible20. Head over to fourlaps.com now. All right, we've got a great day on the Endless Hustle today because although I like you as an actor, Alex Pettyfer, you're stealing my hat look. How dare you? What a shitty start to the interview. You're jacking my look.
Yeah, you've gone for the slick flat cap. I've gone for the Peaky Blinders look.
Well, you're just generally a better looking dude than me anyway, so I lose either way. By the way, congrats, brand new film collection. We'll talk all about that. What's it like in the movie industry right now? This is obviously an indie. When you look around, you're either got to be James Bond, an Avenger, or have some kind of gajillion-dollar IP. So when you get to make an indie for an actor, what is that experience, that process, the thrill? What's it all about now?
You know, when you're making bigger films and there are this larger machine behind, it's just the eyes and views on the content. And I think that when you are looking at an individual experience, it's the experience for you, you as an actor. I love making independent film and I love making studio films. I think the experience is always the same. It's how you view stepping into a role or stepping onto a film that you love. That's important.
So this film, it's a battle between what you want, how you're constricted, what you really want to evolve into. When you make a choice like this, what influences that choice? Why do you say, okay, I want to do collection?
I wanted to do collection first and foremost because of Mariana, the director. I think she had a great vision. I think Todd, who wrote the scripts, had a really an interesting concept that I hadn't kind of read or seen before. But primarily because of Mariana. She's a visionary, and she had a very specific view on how she wanted to make this very masculine, dominant film or environment, and how she really did a really beautiful spin on that. And I wanted to be a part of that journey, because it's her film, it's her movie. And I think as an actor, I love the setup and the duality of a man that has created an environment for himself that's very poisonous, that he's become immune to and ignorant, and then all of a sudden having the veils taken off of his eyes, falling in love and seeing the environment that he's created and the struggle that he has with that conflict. Because as a human, when we see or realize that we're causing pain to others, and ultimately through that pain indulging in that pain as well, that's suffering, and so for him to have that realization is as a character, I found that quite appealing.
You get to work with Mike Vogel, who's one of the leads on one of the hottest shows on TV right now. Literally, when Sex Life came out, I had every female in New York coming up to me from every angle. Have you seen Sex Life? And I'm like, what is this fucking show? And then I watched Sex Life and I'm like, okay, I fucking get it now. Does he, when you get to be a part of a project, because I want to talk to you about your Magic Mike experience, but was he prepared in your mind, like, for what that show would become? And then when it happens, how does an actor handle it? Because you had to go through it with Magic Mike.
I don't know, because I haven't spoken to Mike about his show, but I all I know is that the experience that I had with Mike on collection was such an enjoyable one. We had to create a bond instantaneously, being this kind of brother-esque relationship. And he is a gentleman, he's a family man, and he's dedicated to his work, and when he comes on set, there's an elevation in what you're doing. He holds the space, and I love going on every movie that I do and learning from someone. And I call him a veteran, not in the element that he is an old man, because he's definitely not. I call him a veteran because of the way he carries himself, and really elevates everyone's craft on set. So yeah, and I'm happy for his success. I mean, the guy is a genius actor, super handsome, super humble, and yeah, I have nothing but love for the man.
I want to turn back the clock. Let's talk some Magic Mike, because there are moments in cinema where you have that moment where you can feel like something's changed. The Godfather, things like that happen. Magic Mike to me felt like one of those moments. All of a sudden you have this collection of gorgeous male strippers. We're getting a look inside their world, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And it becomes this enormous phenomenon. It obviously launches you. It obviously launches Channing into a whole different stratosphere. Did you, walking into that movie, have any idea what Magic Mike would become?
No, I didn't. But I mean, you have probably one of the auteurs of our generation, which is Soderbergh, behind the camera. And I think that when you are a young, aspiring actor, or a young guy, wanting to do great work, working with Soderbergh is a dream, And I think the success behind Magic Mike is due to a combination of different elements, but primarily because Stephen was behind the camera, and what he created was magical, and my experience on that film, working with him, was something that I'll never forget. I literally would sit and quietly watch this man, command the set in a way that was so humble and so soft, but his choice in camera movement, his choice in setup, his choice in light. He was the cinematographer as well. He has a huge love for cinematography. It was like going to it was like masterclass before masterclass had even been invented. I was in awe, So yeah, I was very grateful to be a part of that film. And from a financial point of view, it changed the way that independent film was set up. There was a New York Times article on how they set up Magic Mike, and they came from an independent space. I think the movie was made for $5 or $6 million, and yeah, there was an actual format. It wasn't like a stroke of luck or lightning. There was people behind that film that were very smart. And yeah.
When it comes out, it's a phenomenon right off the bat. Are you guys kind of all looking at each other and are you like, what the fuck just happened? I can't believe this thing has exploded the way it is. Because as an actor, you really never know. I've talked to a million actors over my career, and you can never tell. Some things you think are going to end up being The Godfather and they just bomb. And then some things, like I just had John C. McGinley on, and he had no idea Office Space would become Office Space. He thought it was going to be a bomb, and it bombed at first. But when it explodes, what's kind of your reaction at that point?
I think if you focus on whether something is successful or not successful, then you get lost in a different sensibility. Do you know what I mean? It's like,
yep.
And I'm not saying this in a facetious way. I think all you can do as a creative, I'm not even talking as an actor, I'm talking about any sort of art or creativity, is focus on your internal experience. When you paint, when you write, it's a cathartic experience for you. If you all of a sudden are like Jackson Pollock and like are losing your mind because people aren't understanding your expressionism, which by the way, Picasso and Matisse and all these guys didn't understand what Jackson Pollock was doing when he was first, exploiting himself in the New York art scene, then you get lost up in like some sort of hype energy. And that's definitely something that I have got lost in as a young man, because that's just the nature of that machine. And because of that, I was increasingly unhappy. And then I realized actually working with people like Stephen and Lee Daniels and Andrew Niccol, that it's the work. It's people make good movies, people make bad movies, and you never know. It's a stroke of luck and timing and culture I'm just grateful to make movies, man. I really am. Right? I just take my own personal experience, and we all make different films that people relate to. Some people on movies that I think, oh, that was an interesting one. I would never say it's a bad movie, because to make a movie is very hard, but I would say that's an interesting one people love. And the movies that I'm very proud of, people sometimes don't respond to those.
You work with Soderbergh, you work with Lee Daniels, you're around these brilliant directors, these brilliant creatives. You then get behind the camera yourself. Yeah. When you're making your directorial debut, are you ripping stuff off from them? Do you have your own vision? What's the process the first time you get behind the lens? And how do you approach that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely ripping stuff off from them because, Mimic is, or at least shadowing these guys when I was a young man, or when I was working with them. I wasn't sitting there. As I said, it's like a masterclass. And I go back to the same thing. Making independent film is hard. You have so many different variables. So I did take a lot of, I was making an Americano film as an Englishman set in the backwoods of Pennsylvania. I had a great script that was written by Adrian Lyne, who obviously did 9.5 Weeks and Fatal Attraction, and it was a New York Times bestseller. So I had all of the tools, but yeah, it was a, what I learned on that film is collaboration on a larger scale. When you're an actor, you're looking at an individual story, you're looking at an individual arc, and walking away from that film helped me as an actor, because now I look at the continuum of all characters and all narrative and the film as a whole. Whether I'm just an actor, or whether I'm directing and producing, or whether I'm an actor and producing with my company. I think we can get lost in our individuality, and I think making films is about making films, entertainment for people. And so looking at it from a larger point of view, I really, that was a really good life lesson for me.
You have such a beautiful English accent. And I've always wondered, because I was just watching Billions. I don't know if you watch Billions on Showtime, but Damian Lewis is the lead, and he's got the heaviest accent, but then he transforms into the perfect Brooklyn guy, right? I've always wondered, when you have to go from your native accent to an American accent, what's the process? How do you get it right?
I actually, talking about Damian Lewis, I just did a movie with Guy Pearce, and Guy Pearce has obviously an Australian accent, and we did a movie called Infernal Machine. I just, after 18 months not working, I dove straight in with him, and he did a Yorkshire accent, and I don't know. I mean, I can tell you from the point of view of an American accent that I lived in the States for 14 years. I came to America a lot when I was a young man. My family would go to America, and I watched American TV shows, and it was subconsciously there. And I did have to work at it. It wasn't something that just came naturally. I really worked hard at it. But these actors that are doing these very distinct accents, I have huge admiration for them, because when you are going and riding a bike without your stabilizers, it becomes like a second nature in it. But when you're jumping into a movie and you haven't heard the accent for 10 years subconsciously and haven't worked at it, and you're getting a fresh accent like a Yorkshire accent as an Australian, you're putting the stabilizers on for 3 weeks or 6 weeks, whatever the prep is. And when you're not thinking about your accent, you're just thinking about the work and the present moment. So the stabilizers are off. And so to answer your question, I also fanboy about some of these guys. I also fanboy about, Daniel Day-Lewis going in There Will Be Blood, and having this Rob Pattinson in Lights. The Lighthouse.
Good Time. Oh, and in
No.
Good Time, he's great too with that.
Well, in the Good Time, yes, but he also has that a little bit of like he followed De Niro's career, and really, I think with those kind of New York or Bronx or those accents, I think he finds it's a little bit like myself with the general American accent. I think that's a comfortable place for him. But when you go watch him in The Lighthouse, when you go watch him in I think it was Devil All the Time, or that movie that he did where he played the priest, his accent is just, it's, excuse my language, it's fucking brilliant. He's a brilliant actor. So I'm always watching these guys, and I'm thinking, at some point I got to start, I can't just be doing the general American accent, Actually, in my last film, in this Infernal Machine, I have a little bit of a weird voice, so it'll be interesting to see how people respond to that.
Pattinson's a great example, by the way, of a guy who he lands this iconic role. Obviously, Twilight becomes this mega franchise for a whole generation, but he's done such a brilliant job navigating his career since then, and getting away from being just Robert Pattinson. He's not just the good-looking guy anymore. He's not just Edward from Twilight. He really is this really acclaimed actor now, and that's such a hard journey in Hollywood. When you were coming off Magic Mike, you're like the good-looking guy in Magic Mike. Was it hard to say, guys, I'm more than just this. I want to be a good character actor. I want to do different types of roles. Was it, or did people kind of just be like, oh, that's the guy from Magic Mike, and there was some difficulty around that?
Well, I think Rob was in a different position than me, because him and Kristen are the lead of that movie, and it was a franchise, and so there is a element where he is greenlighting movies. Do you understand what I mean?
He has the power at that point. Yeah, he
has like an element of like, if you're putting Rob in your movie, you're getting, if you're an independent film, which is the route he chose to go down, because I'm sure he could have had a different route of becoming more commercial and doing bigger studio films, which I think he's steered towards now, especially with Batman and these incredible IPs, and he deserves all of this. But he or those guys are in a different position. When you are making a movie like Magic Mike, you are the collective group, but you are, there's so many, there's such a business behind the element of foreign sales, and there's a whole thing with film that now I have my company, and I've had my company Dark Dreams Entertainment with my producing partner for 3 years now, and we have made Echo Boomers with Michael Shannon, and obviously Collection, and we did Infernal Machine that we just did with Guy Pearce, and we're doing Chelsea Cowboy now. I'm learning about the business and people's value, and it's interesting. So to answer your point, no, it wasn't so much I finished Magic Mike and there was a hype. I finished Magic Mike and I was another actor looking for a job, that had been a part of a successful film. And how do you navigate when you don't have the accessibility to material, So it's a little bit more of a harder journey, But I'm very grateful for the films that I've been able to make. It's hard to make films and hard to make independent films, and getting any movie off the ground is a feat of a miracle. So I've never ever struggled with, I think that's a very, and I don't mean to discard your question, but I've never had a thing of like, oh, you're the good looking guy from Magic Mike, or because everyone's a good looking guy, it's like everyone's a beautiful person in that film, but it was never about looks or anything like that. I think my or most people's struggles are trying to find great roles and great material that people give you an opportunity to do when you can't finance their film, So being luckily enough to get into a studio film that is a good role, that gives you more credit, to then be able to go and help these independent films that have meatier roles, then only elevates your career. So it's a really catch-22. It's like a chicken and an egg with making films and making good choices. And when people say, oh, that guy has just made great choices and great this and this and that, and I'm like, yeah, he has, but there's also another side to it that you don't see, that is a financial and a business element that really has helped him be able to make those choices and have those come to fruition, you know.
Before I let you go, we got to have the Michael Shannon discussion because there's no one like that dude. I've interviewed Michael probably 15 times over the years. One of the most unique, off the wall, hilarious, best dry sense of humor dudes you will ever meet. I don't know if you ever gotten to see, he has with Josh Horowitz from MTV. Every time they do an interview, if you ever have a chance, you got to Google this. But Michael Shannon goes into Michael Shannon mode and just that hardcore face, dry sense of humor. It's amazing.
Really? Hang on a sec, I've got to write that down.
Josh Horowitz from MTV and Michael Shannon. So I want to ask you, what was the most Michael Shannon thing that Michael Shannon did when you were working with him?
I've done 2 movies with Michael. I did Elvis and Nixon and obviously Echo Boomers. Me and Michael were like that on Elvis Nixon because I played a guy called Jerry Schilling that was Elvis's best friend. And as you know, Michael is an absolute incredible actor, you know, and fully committed. And to be around him on Elvis Nixon was just breathtaking, you know. Here's a man that didn't necessarily look like Elvis, you know, he obviously had a little bit of insecurity about that, but fully dived in, you know. There is no Michael Shannon element on that part because you're working with a for me, one of the greats, you know, like Revolutionary Road, you know, Oscar nominated actor. But when I was on Echo Boomers, he came and he did like 3 days work. And there's just a little bit of an element of like suffer no fools, you know, and if you're not prepared and you're not in there with him, and there was an actor and he decided to improv in the scene with Michael, and Michael's playing obviously a gentleman that is selling stuff on the black market and probably a little bit of a hard character. And on this last take, this actor decided that he had more courage than he should to confront and go into a little bit of an improv. And Michael Shannon turned back around, fully in character, and pointed at him and was going on some like monologue speech about all the things. And it's not like, he's not just picking from the, like even though he's doing 3 or 4 days on the movie, he knows everything that's going on. His knowledge about his character, his environment and he is putting his finger in the actor's mouth like that. And literally, knowing that it's not going to be in the movie, but you had the, like, and there's like a psychology of like, you had the, I have a little bit of respect for you because you are trying to step up and kind of, you know, play on that level, but don't ever try that again. And they didn't do the scene again, but I was there crying with laughter, just crying. But he is the nicest man. He's a lovely man. He's a family man. He's a genius actor. And I mean, look at the work that he's doing, Knives Out, and he works with Guillermo del Toro on Shape of Water. And just, I mean, I feel so blessed to like go and work with Michael Shannon and Guy Pearce and Ewan McGregor and Bill Nye. And I hope that I keep getting to work with these people that I learn from, you know.
Bro, this was awesome. I enjoyed this so much. And the Michael Shannon story, I mean, for those who never will ever get to meet Michael Shannon, he really is one of the most unique dudes on the planet, but truly one of the great talents and probably one of the most underrated actors to have ever lived. But he's such a unique personality because he's so tough looking, but he has this just dry sarcasm that knocks you off your feet. And like you said, you just start crying off of his actions and one-liner. So that was awesome.
Yeah.
Congratulations. The new movie is Collection. Thanks for a fun interview, Alex. And we'll have to coordinate hats again next time.
Done. Thank you, my friend, for today. I really appreciate it.
Same here, brother. Good luck with the movie. Thank you so much.